The great palace of the alien empire stood tall against the pale sky, its towers made of silver stone that seemed to glow in the light of the two suns. Wide gates opened, guarded by rows of armored alien soldiers, their faces hidden behind helmets that reflected the crowd. They stood silent and still, like statues carved out of living metal. The air was heavy with the weight of the moment. This was no ordinary day. For the first time in many years, humans had been invited to step inside the heart of the empire. The invitation was not given lightly. Both sides had lived in distance and mistrust, watching one another across the stars, each unsure of the other's true strength. Now, at last, a meeting was about to take place. Among the human delegation was a young guard named Ryan. He was not a leader, nor a diplomat, just one soldier chosen to stand in line and show that humans, too, had honor and discipline. He wore the simple uniform of Earth's defense force, not as grand as the shining armor of the aliens, but neat and proud. As he marched with his companions through the gates, his heart beat faster than he wished. Ryan had never been so close to the Empire before. Stories on Earth described the aliens as both wise and frightening. Some said they were cruel conquerors. Others believed they were ancient protectors of knowledge. Ryan had no answer. All he knew was that the palace around him felt alive, humming with energy that pressed against his skin. The humans were led into the grand hall. It stretched wider than any hall Ryan had ever seen, with high ceilings that sparkled with lights that looked like stars. Along the walls stood the alien guards, taller than humans, their armor marked with symbols of power. They held long staffs that glowed at the tips, and their silent presence made Ryan feel small. The human leaders took their place at the center of the hall. The soldiers, including Ryan, were ordered to form a line along the side, facing the alien warriors. He kept his head straight, trying to look calm, though his eyes kept wandering to the strange designs carved into the walls. They looked like stories written in stone, scenes of battles, peace, and crowns rising over worlds. Suddenly, the great doors at the far end opened. A sound like soft bells filled the air, and every alien soldier raised their staff in unison. The Queen was entering. Ryan felt the shift in the room before he even saw her. A wave of quiet respect moved through the hall, even from the humans. Then she appeared. The Queen was tall and graceful, her gown made of flowing material that shimmered like water. A crown rested lightly on her head, not heavy or harsh, but shaped like branches of light. Her face was calm, but her eyes carried a strength that made even the bravest men hesitate to meet her gaze. She walked slowly down the hall, her steps measured, her presence filling every corner. The alien guards lowered their heads slightly as she passed, a sign of loyalty. The humans stood stiffly, unsure of how to respond. Ryan kept his eyes forward, telling himself not to draw attention. He was only a guard. No one would notice him in the sea of armor and light. But then it happened. The Queen's gaze swept across her guards first, then over the humans who had come to speak with her empire. Her eyes lingered for a moment on the leaders, then, without warning, they rested on Ryan. It was not the quick glance of someone passing through the crowd. It was a look that held, steady and searching. Ryan's breath caught in his chest. He felt like he was standing alone in the hall, every sound fading away. And then she smiled. It was not a wide or careless smile, but a small, knowing one. A smile that spoke of recognition, as if she had found something she had been looking for. Ryan froze. His thoughts spun wildly. Why would the Queen of an empire notice him, a simple guard from Earth? Why would she look at him like she knew him? The other soldiers beside him did not seem to notice, but a few alien guards narrowed their eyes, as if they had seen it too. The Queen turned her head slowly, continuing her walk down the hall, but the moment remained fixed in Ryan's mind like fire on stone. When the Queen reached her throne, the hall fell silent. She raised her hand, and with a single word, she welcomed the humans to her court. The voices of translators carried her greeting into every ear, but Ryan barely heard them. His heart still raced with the weight of her smile. He stood among the alien guards, trying to steady himself, but deep inside, one thought refused to leave. The Queen had looked at him as if she knew him, as if there was something hidden between them that he had never been told. And in that instant, the young guard understood that his life was no longer simple. The Queen's smile had changed everything, though he did not yet know how. The hall slowly returned to its natural rhythm after the Queen's arrival. Officials stepped forward, voices of translators echoed through the high chamber, and the human leaders began their careful speeches. They spoke of peace, of trade, and of trust between species. Every word was weighed, for no one wanted to risk offense in such a place. Ryan stood in line with the other guards, his eyes fixed ahead. His training told him to remain still, yet his mind refused to rest. The memory of the Queen's gaze would not leave him. He could still see the curve of her smile, faint and sure, as though she had known him before this moment. The thought shook him. He tried to convince himself it had meant nothing. Perhaps she had smiled at everyone. Perhaps he had imagined it. Yet deep inside, he knew it had been real. He had felt the weight of her eyes, the strange silence when the world seemed to fall away. When the session ended, the humans were guided to guest chambers within the palace. The soldiers, including Ryan, were dismissed to a wide hall lined with tall windows. Beyond the glass, the alien city stretched far, glowing with streams of light that ran along its towers and bridges. Ryan had never seen such a place. It felt alive, almost breathing. The soldiers spoke in low voices. Some commented on the Queen's presence, others on the size of the palace, but none mentioned the smile. Ryan said nothing, keeping the memory locked within himself. He did not want to draw attention. Later that evening, he walked quietly along the corridor, hoping to clear his thoughts. The sound of alien voices reached him from around the corner. Curious, he slowed his steps. Two alien guards stood speaking in their own tongue, but their words were echoed by the faint hum of the translation device clipped to Ryan's belt. The voices came through soft and steady. She looked at him, one guard said. "Did you see it? The Queen does not smile at strangers." "Not like that." The other replied, "I saw. It was no accident." "But why him? He is nothing but a soldier of Earth. He should mean nothing here." Their words struck Ryan like a stone. He stepped back before they could notice his presence, his heart beating fast. So he had not imagined it? Others had seen the smile too. When he returned to his chamber, he sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor. His mind reached back to his childhood, to the dreams he once had. Strange dreams, always the same. A city under two moons, with tall towers and flowing bridges of light. He had walked there many times in his sleep, hearing voices that spoke in words he did not know, yet somehow understood. When he grew older, he told no one. He thought they were only dreams. But now, sitting in the palace of the empire, he realized the city in his dreams was the same city he had seen outside the window. The thought unsettled him. How could he have dreamed of a place he had never seen? How could the Queen look at him with recognition when he was sure they had never met? The night grew long, but sleep refused to come. He lay awake, staring at the ceiling, his thoughts tangled in questions. Each time he closed his eyes, he saw the Queen's smile again. It was not a smile of politeness. It was the smile of someone who knew a secret. The next morning, Ryan joined the other soldiers as they prepared to escort the human leaders to the council hall. The palace was filled with movement. Alien nobles walked in groups, their robes trailing behind them. Servants carried scrolls and glowing devices. Everywhere, the whispers of yesterday still lingered. As the delegation moved, Ryan noticed alien officials glancing his way. Their eyes were sharp, filled with questions. He kept his face calm, but inside he felt the tension. The Queen's smile had not gone unnoticed. At the council, long debates began between human leaders and alien advisors. Words of agreement were exchanged, yet every promise was surrounded by careful caution. Ryan remained at his post, silent and still, though his thoughts wandered. At one point, he felt the weight of a gaze again. Across the hall, high on the throne, the Queen sat listening. Her eyes moved over the council, then paused briefly on him. It was only for a moment, but Ryan felt it clearly. His chest tightened, the same way it had the day before. When the session ended, one of the alien officials approached him quietly. The man's voice was low, his words measured. "You must be careful," the official said. "When the Queen looks at you, others notice. Not all welcome it. Some will wonder why. Some will fear it." Ryan did not reply. He could only nod. The official walked away, leaving him with a weight heavier than before. That night, the dreams returned. He saw the glowing city again, brighter and sharper. He walked across the bridges of light. At the far end stood a figure, tall and graceful, her eyes shining. It was the Queen. She did not speak, but she raised her hand in greeting, just as she had in the hall. Ryan woke with a start, his chest rising quickly. The line between dream and reality had grown thin. He pressed his hand against his forehead, trying to steady himself. The Queen's smile was not chance. The guards had whispered it, the officials had warned it, and his dreams had confirmed it. Something bound him to this place, something hidden deep in his past. And though he did not yet understand, Ryan knew one thing for certain. The Queen had noticed him for a reason, and that reason was waiting to be revealed. The palace rose quietly under the morning light, its towers glowing like polished crystal. Human leaders gathered again in the council chambers, while soldiers stood at their posts. Ryan tried to remain calm, but unease had followed him through the night. Dreams of the shining city still lingered in his mind, and the Queen's smile refused to leave his thoughts. He stood in line with the other guards, his hand resting on the handle of his weapon. His eyes were forward, his body still, but his heart was restless. The air of the palace seemed heavier around him, as though unseen eyes were always watching. The morning session dragged on. Human voices and alien voices mixed in long debates, translated again and again by the devices clipped to their belts. The words carried meaning, but for Ryan, they became only background noise. He was fighting against the memory of the dream that had woken him before dawn. Then, something unexpected happened. An alien officer in silver robes approached the human soldiers. His steps were slow, his face calm, but his voice carried authority. He stopped in front of Ryan. "The Queen summons you," the officer said. Ryan froze. His fellow guards turned their heads slightly in surprise, though no one spoke aloud. The officer gave no explanation, only a signal for Ryan to follow. With hesitant steps, Ryan obeyed. He walked past the lines of guards, through a side corridor lit by soft glowing stones. The air was cooler there, the sounds of the council fading behind him. His mind spun. Why would the Queen summon him? He was not a leader, not a diplomat. He was only a soldier, one among many. The officer guided him through a series of tall doors until they reached a chamber unlike the others. It was smaller than the grand hall but filled with quiet beauty. The walls shimmered with threads of light, and a pool of water rested at the center, reflecting the ceiling above. The room felt calm, almost sacred. At the far end, the Queen waited. She stood without her crown, dressed in a robe of pale silver. Without the crown, she seemed less distant, though her presence was no less powerful. Her eyes turned to him as he entered, and for the second time, he felt the weight of her gaze. The officer bowed and left the chamber, the door closing silently behind him. Ryan stood alone before the Queen. "Step closer," she said, her voice calm yet commanding. Ryan obeyed, his steps slow, his heart pounding. He stopped a short distance from her, lowering his head slightly in respect. "You wonder why I noticed you," the Queen said. "You wonder why I smiled." Ryan's throat felt dry. He struggled to speak but managed a quiet answer. "Yes, my Queen. I do not understand." She studied him for a moment, her eyes steady. "You are not here by accident, Ryan of Earth. Your presence is not chance." Ryan frowned in confusion. "I am only a soldier. I was chosen to stand in line, nothing more." The Queen shook her head gently. "You are more than you believe. You carry within you a link to the past, a thread that connects worlds long divided." Her words struck him with both wonder and fear. "I do not understand," he said again, his voice unsteady. The Queen raised her hand, and the pool of water at the center of the chamber began to glow. Images rose within it, shifting like smoke. Ryan saw a city under twin moons, its bridges shining with light. His chest tightened. It was the same city from his dreams. "This was once real," the Queen said. "Long ago, humans and my people stood together. Earth was not isolated. It was part of a greater path. But time, war, and silence broke that bond. Humanity forgot. My people remembered." Ryan's breath caught as the image faded. "I have seen this place," he whispered. "In dreams, since I was a child. How could I dream of it if it was forgotten?" The Queen's eyes softened. "Because your blood remembers. There are few like you, scattered across generations. The memory lies within, waiting to awaken. You are the bridge between us, Ryan. The reason I smiled is because I knew, the moment I saw you, that the bond could return." Ryan shook his head slowly. "But I am no leader. I am no diplomat. I am only a guard." The Queen stepped closer, her presence calm but firm. "Sometimes, the smallest stone can shape the river. You may not see your own worth, but it is there. You are proof that the link is not lost. You are proof that the past still breathes." Her words filled him with both fear and hope. He wanted to believe, yet doubt weighed heavy. Could it be true that his dreams were not his own, but memories carried across ages? Could it be true that the Queen had waited for him? The Queen placed her hand lightly over the pool, and the glow faded. "You do not need to understand everything now. In time, you will. For now, know this, you are not alone. You are part of something greater than you realize." Ryan bowed his head, unsure what to say. His heart raced, his mind full of questions, but one thought echoed louder than the rest. His life, once simple, was no longer his own. The Queen's voice grew softer, almost kind. "Stand tall, Ryan of Earth. Your journey has only begun." The chamber was silent after the Queen's words. Ryan stood still, his thoughts turning in circles. The shining city he had seen in his dreams now rested in the pool before him. The Queen spoke of a past where humans and her people walked side by side, but to him it felt like something impossible. The Queen stepped closer, her voice calm yet certain. "You doubt because your memory has been sealed. Humanity was cut away from the greater path, and the truth became buried. But within you, Ryan, the memory can be touched." Ryan raised his eyes slowly. "You mean the dreams I have, they are not just dreams. They are fragments," she said. "Pieces of what your bloodline still carries. Do you wish to see them more clearly?" Ryan hesitated. His heart beat fast, unsure of what might happen. Yet the curiosity inside him was stronger than fear. At last, he nodded. "Yes, my Queen." She extended her hand toward the pool. The water began to glow again, but brighter this time, filling the chamber with soft light. "Step forward," she commanded. Ryan obeyed, standing at the edge of the pool. The queen touched the surface, and ripples spread outward. A gentle hum filled the air, and the light rose higher until it surrounded them both. Then the vision came. Ryan gasped as the world around him shifted. He was no longer in the chamber but standing in the heart of a city that looked alive with brilliance. Towers of crystal stretched toward the sky, bridges of glowing stone connected them, and two moons hung above like guardians. The streets were filled with both humans and aliens, working side by side. He saw merchants trading, builders lifting great blocks with energy tools, children of both species running together. The queen's voice echoed beside him, though she stood only in the vision. This was long ago, before the silence. Humans were not strangers to the stars. They were explorers, builders, allies. They shared knowledge and dreams with us. Ryan's eyes followed the images. He saw human hands crafting machines alongside alien minds, creating wonders that Earth no longer knew. He felt warmth in his chest, a strange sense of belonging, as if he had stood there before. The scene shifted. The city grew dark. Flames rose, towers fell, and the sky shook with thunder. Strange ships blazed across the heavens, and shadows of war covered the land. The voices of fear and loss echoed around him. Ryan's breath grew heavy. What happened? He asked, though he feared the answer. The queen's voice was steady. A great conflict. Enemies rose against the bond between our worlds. They feared what humans and my people could achieve together. War broke the bridges, and Earth was left alone. In time, your people forgot. But the memory never died completely. It remained in a few, carried like a seed waiting for light. The vision shifted again. The city faded, and Ryan stood in darkness. In the distance, a faint glow pulsed, like a heartbeat. He stepped toward it, drawn by something deeper than thought. When he reached out, the glow entered his chest. A rush of warmth spread through him, filling him with both strength and sadness. Then the chamber returned. The light faded, and the pool was still once more. Ryan stumbled back, breathing hard, his hands trembling. The queen's eyes were on him, calm but knowing. You have seen, she said. The memory is within you. It is not imagination. It is truth. Ryan pressed a hand to his chest. The feeling of the glow still lingered, as if it lived inside him. Why me? He asked quietly. Why not someone else? Because not all can carry the memory, she answered. Only some lines of humanity were bound to the old bond. You are one of them. Your dreams were not chance. They were echoes of what you were meant to awaken. Ryan felt both honored and burdened. The weight of history pressed down on him. He was a soldier, trained to stand in line and follow orders, not someone chosen for destiny. Yet the queen spoke as if he was more. She placed her hand lightly on the edge of the pool. The empire faces unrest. Factions grow restless. They fear change. But if humans return to their rightful place, balance can be restored. You, Ryan, are proof that our bond was never broken completely. Ryan looked at her, unsure how to carry such a truth. I do not know if I can be what you say. Her gaze softened. You do not need to know now. What matters is that the memory is alive in you. And that alone changes everything. The chamber grew silent again. Ryan lowered his head, trying to steady his breath. The images of the shining city, the fire of war, and the glow within his chest stayed with him. They were not just visions. They were part of him now. As he left the chamber under the guidance of the same officer, the palace around him felt different. The walls seemed to watch him. The corridors whispered with meaning he could not explain. He was no longer just a guard among strangers. He carried something hidden, something that tied him to the past and pulled him toward the future. That night, when he lay on his bed, he closed his eyes and waited for dreams. He expected the city to return, but instead he felt only the steady glow in his chest, quiet and alive. It reminded him of the Queen's words, "You are the bridge between us." Ryan knew his path was no longer simple. What he had seen would not let him rest. The Queen's smile, the vision, and the hidden memory had shown him a truth that could not be undone. And though fear still lingered, one thought rose above it all. His life had changed, and nothing would ever be the same again. The following day began with a sense of unease. The council chambers were busy with new arguments, and the voices of humans and aliens rose sharply through the palace halls. But Ryan's place was not in the center of debate. He stood with the soldiers as usual, yet the weight of the Queen's words still pressed against him. He was the bridge, she had said. He was proof that the bond of the past could return. But not everyone believed. When the council ended that afternoon, the Queen called for a private gathering. Only a few officials, commanders, and soldiers were allowed inside. Ryan was among them. The chamber was smaller than the grand hall, but the air inside felt heavier. The Queen sat on her throne, her face calm but serious. "Doubt remains among my council," she said. "Some question if humans should be trusted. Some fear that the past must remain buried. To move forward, we must have proof." An alien commander stepped forward, his armor marked with red lines of rank. His voice was firm. "Then let the human soldier be tested. If he carries the bond, let him show it." Ryan felt his chest tighten. The Queen's gaze turned to him, but her eyes carried no cruelty. She gave a small nod. "The test will reveal what words cannot." Before Ryan could ask, the doors opened. Guards entered, leading a creature bound in chains of glowing metal. The air shifted with its arrival. The creature's body was large, covered in rough scales, its eyes burning with wildfire. It growled, pulling against the chains, and even the alien soldiers shifted uneasily. "This is the Varrock," the commander said. "Even trained warriors fear its rage. If the human is truly what you claim, let him face it." Ryan's heart pounded. He had fought before, but never against something like this. The creature's strength was clear, its teeth sharp, its movements violent. If it broke free, it could tear through any soldier in the room. The chains were unlocked, and the Varrock roared, the sound shaking the walls. Soldiers raised their weapons, ready to strike if needed. Ryan was pushed forward into the open space. He gripped his weapon tightly, his eyes fixed on the beast. But something inside him urged him not to raise it. His chest glowed faintly, the same warmth he had felt in the Queen's vision. The memory of the city, the bridges, and the voices of both humans and aliens together filled his mind. The Varrock charged, its claws striking the floor. Ryan's instinct told him to move, but he did not raise his weapon. Instead, he lifted his hand. "Stop," he said, though his voice was small against the roar. The beast slowed, its eyes locked on him. It snarled, circling, waiting for a strike. But Ryan did not attack. He stepped forward, slowly, carefully, his hand still raised. "I know you are in pain," he whispered, though he did not know how he knew. "You are not only rage." The warmth in his chest grew stronger, and with it, a calmness spread outward. The Varrock's growls lowered. It shook its head, confused. Soldiers around the chamber gripped their weapons tighter, waiting for a deadly move, but none came. Ryan stepped closer until the creature stood still before him. Its eyes flickered, the fire within them dimming. He placed his hand gently on its rough skin. Silence filled the chamber. The Varrock exhaled slowly, its body lowering to the ground. The rage in its eyes faded, replaced by quiet. It sat like a resting animal, no longer a monster. Ryan's hand trembled, but he did not move away. He felt the bond between them, strange yet real, as if the creature had heard the same memory that lived within him. The Queen rose from her throne. Her eyes shone with approval. "The bond lives," she said softly. The alien commander who had demanded the test lowered his head, his doubt shaken. The soldiers who had once looked at Ryan with suspicion now stared in silence, some with respect, others with uncertainty. Ryan stepped back, and the guards secured the Varric again, though it did not resist. His chest still glowed faintly, and he realized the warmth was not fading. It lived within him, stronger now than before. The Queen turned to the council. "You have seen. The human does not bring fear. He brings balance. Where we saw rage, he found peace. Where we saw danger, he found trust. This is what our bond was once, and this is what it can be again." Her words carried through the chamber. Some nodded in agreement, others remained silent, but none could deny what they had witnessed. As the gathering ended, Ryan felt weak from the effort, yet his heart was steady. He had not only survived the test, he had changed something deeper. The alien guards looked at him differently now, not as a stranger but as someone who had touched what even they could not. When the Queen passed him, she gave him the same knowing smile as before. But this time, he understood a little more. She had seen what he could become, even when he had not. That night, as Ryan sat alone in his chamber, he thought of the Varric's eyes, the fire turning to calm. He thought of the Queen's words, and of the warmth still alive in his chest. He knew the test was not only for the council. It was for himself. He had doubted who he was, but now he understood. He carried the memory of the bond, and with it, a responsibility greater than he had ever imagined. His journey was only beginning, and he felt certain that harder trials were still to come. The palace had grown quieter after the test of trust, but the silence was not peace. Whispers moved through the halls like hidden currents. Some believed in Ryan after what they had seen, while others still doubted and feared what his presence meant. The Queen remained steady. She spoke calmly in meetings, reminding her council that balance could not be restored through fear. Yet in her eyes, there was a shadow. She knew that not all threats lived inside the chamber. Ryan sensed the same. Each day, as he walked among the guards, he felt eyes on him watching, measuring, waiting. The memory of the Varric test gave him strength, but it also warned him. The bond had revealed itself, and now it made him a target. One night, as the moons hung low above the city, Ryan heard a sound outside his chamber door. Soft, careful steps that did not belong to the usual guards. He moved quietly, pressing against the wall, and listened. The faint hiss of whispered words reached him. "Tonight, it must be done. The human cannot be allowed to stay." His chest tightened. He reached for his weapon but did not open the door. The steps faded into the hall, leaving behind a silence colder than before. The next morning, the Queen summoned him to her private garden. It was a place hidden from most of the palace, filled with glowing plants and streams of water that shimmered like glass. She stood among the trees, her robe catching the light of the rising sun. "You feel it, don't you?" she asked softly. Ryan nodded. "Someone wants me gone." Her eyes searched his face. "More than one. There are factions that fear you will take my favor. They believe the bond will place humans above them. Some would rather see this chance destroyed than risk change." "Then why keep me here?" Ryan asked. "Why not send me away, before it becomes worse?" The Queen's expression softened. "Because the bond is not only yours, it is ours. If you leave, the hope leaves with you. I will not let fear break what we have just begun to rebuild." Before Ryan could reply, a guard rushed into the garden. His face was pale. "Your Majesty, the outer gate has been breached. Unknown soldiers move within the city walls." The Queen's calm vanished into urgency. "Take me to the chamber. Call the council." She turned to Ryan. "Stay close to me. The danger has already begun." The palace halls filled with alarm. Soldiers ran to their stations, and the sound of weapons being prepared echoed against the stone. Ryan moved with the queen to the chamber, where council members had already gathered, their voices filled with panic. "It is the faction of the Shadow Blades," one of the commanders said. "They have long opposed your rule, and now they strike with new allies. They move fast, as if guided from inside these walls." The queen's gaze grew sharp. "A traitor among us, then." The council erupted in shouts, but Ryan's attention was fixed on the queen. He could see the weight of command in her posture, the way she stood unshaken even as fear rose around her. She turned to the soldiers. "We cannot let them divide us. Hold the gates. Protect the city. This palace will not fall." Ryan's hand went to his chest, where the warmth of the bond stirred again. He felt it rising as if it knew the danger, as if it was guiding him towards something unseen. That night, while the battle raged at the outer gates, Ryan moved through the palace halls with a group of guards. The sounds of combat grew closer, clashing steel, shouts of anger, the deep tremor of explosions shaking the floors. Then came the moment he had feared. A group of masked figures slipped through the shadows, their blades glowing faintly. The guards raised their weapons, but the attackers moved with deadly speed. Ryan felt the bond flare inside him. His vision sharpened, his steps guided not by thought but by instinct. He blocked a strike that should have cut him down. He moved in sync with the guards beside him, but his presence seemed to push them faster, stronger. The masked attackers faltered. One fell, then another. The rest turned back into the shadows, retreating with a hiss of frustration. The guards stared at Ryan, their breaths heavy. One of them finally whispered, "It is true. He carries something none of us have." But Ryan did not feel victory. His eyes followed the retreating figures, and he saw what others had not. Among the shadows, a face had turned toward him for the briefest moment. It was not only an enemy soldier. It was someone from within the palace. Someone who belonged to the Queen's council. When the halls grew quiet again, Ryan stood still, the bond burning inside him like fire. The danger was no longer at the gates. It was inside the walls, hidden among those who claimed loyalty. As the night stretched on, he knew this truth: the real enemy was not only the Shadow Blades, but betrayal from within. And soon, the Queen would need to know. The palace no longer felt safe. The walls that once carried calm now carried fear. Every shadow looked dangerous, every whisper carried doubt. Ryan walked through the halls with his hand close to his weapon, but his real worry was not for himself. It was for the Queen. The Queen, however, did not show her fear. She spoke to the people in the chamber with steady words. "The Shadow Blades will not rule the city. We will not let betrayal destroy what we are building." Her voice gave courage, but her eyes told Ryan that she knew the danger was close. That night, Ryan could not sleep. The bond inside him burned with warning, like fire waiting to escape. He left his chamber and walked toward the council hall. The corridors were quiet, yet not empty. He saw a flicker of movement at the far end. A figure cloaked in dark robes. Ryan followed, keeping low. The figure slipped into the chamber where the Queen often met her advisors. Ryan's heart pounded as he pressed against the wall and peered inside. The figure pulled back their hood. It was Lord Vera, one of the Queen's most trusted counselors. Ryan's breath caught. Vera stood beside a table, speaking into a device hidden in his robe. His words were sharp. "The gates will not hold for long. Strike tomorrow. The Queen trusts me, but she will not live to see another sunrise. The human will fall with her." Ryan stepped forward, sword drawn. "So it was you." Vera froze, then turned with a cold smile. "Ah, the human. You move faster than I thought. But you are still too late." The chamber doors burst open as masked soldiers of the Shadow Blades stormed inside. They had slipped into the palace with Vera's help. Blades glowed under the dim light. Ryan raised his weapon, heart racing, but he knew he could not face them all alone. Before he could call for help, the queen herself entered through the side passage, 2 guards at her side. Her eyes locked on Vera. So it is true. You sold your loyalty. Vera laughed bitterly. Loyalty to you brings only weakness. The bond with the human will break our rule. Better to end it now than see our people bow. The queen's voice did not shake. It is not weakness to seek unity. It is strength. The soldiers rushed forward. The chamber filled with the clash of steel. Ryan fought with the guards, every movement guided by the strange fire of the bond. He blocked, struck, and moved with a speed that even surprised him. The queen's guards held their ground, but the enemy pressed harder. In the middle of the fight, Vera drew a long blade and charged toward the queen. Ryan saw it and moved without thought. He threw himself between them, blocking the strike. The clash of their blades sent sparks across the floor. You should have never come here, Vera snarled. Maybe I was meant to, Ryan answered, pushing back with all his strength. The bond flared inside him, brighter than ever before. His strike forced Vera back, breaking his guard. With one final move, Ryan disarmed him, sending the blade clattering across the stone. The queen's guards surrounded Vera, forcing him to his knees. The remaining Shadow Blade soldiers, seeing their leader defeated, began to retreat. The queen raised her hand. Let them go. Tonight they learned that betrayal cannot win. The hall grew quiet again, filled only with heavy breaths and the fading echo of battle. Ryan lowered his weapon, his body trembling from the strain. The queen stepped closer, her eyes fixed on him. You saved me, she said softly. Ryan shook his head. No, I only did what the bond guided me to do. Her gaze was steady, yet filled with warmth. Then perhaps the bond is not just a gift. Perhaps it is a sign. A sign that humans and my people are meant to stand together, not apart. The council gathered in the chamber the next morning. Vera was brought before them, his betrayal revealed. Some were shaken, but none could deny what they had seen. Ryan had stood against the enemy, not as a stranger, but as one of them. The queen spoke clearly so all could hear. The bond is real, and it cannot be undone. It has already begun to change us. From this day forward, humans will no longer be seen as outsiders. They will stand with us, as allies, as part of this world. A silence followed, then a slow wave of agreement spread through the council. Not everyone was ready, but the first step had been taken. That night, the queen stood with Ryan on the palace balcony. The city stretched before them, the fires of battle now replaced by calm lights. You were noticed among the guards, she said, her voice carrying the memory of the first moment she had seen him. And from that moment, I knew you were different. Now I know why. Ryan looked at her, the stars shining above them. Because of the bond. She shook her head gently. Because you chose to fight for more than yourself. That is what makes you human. And that is what makes you one of us. For the first time, Ryan felt not like a stranger, but like he belonged. The bond was no longer a mystery. It was a bridge. And with it, a new future had begun.